transparent drops with a sweet kick. A delicious drink, sake is an important part of Japanese history and culture. But did you know? More than 1,000 years ago, most sake was cloudy and thick like this. In Nara and Heian periods, sake was made at the brewery office of the royal court. But from late Heian period to medieval times, Buddhist temples began taking important roles in advancing brewing techniques and sake qualities. Pre-modern sake makers were concentrated in Western Japan, but today we can find many fabulous sake makers in rice-producing regions in northern Japan. In this episode, we will visit one of such sake-making areas in north, Aizu-wakamatsu in Fukushima Prefecture, and ask, how is sake made? How did the cloudy sake from a millennium ago evolve into the clear sake of today? Were you ever overwhelmed in front of a sake list? No worries, because I'll teach you the differences by using Aizu-wakamatsu sake as an example. And of course, how delicious are they? Wow. Yeah, let's investigate. I first visited Tsurunoe, a boutique sake brewery that has been making high-quality sake since 1794. Yuri Hayashi, the eldest daughter of the 7th generation sake brewer, inherited Tsurunoe and is now making sake as Toji, the chief brewer. Her younger brother was originally expected to be the successor. I think it's because men have been dominant in Japan's sake brewing business for centuries. During the Edo period, when Tsurunoe was established, women were even banned from brewing, being prohibited from entering the brewing facilities. Today, it's still rare, but women can become brewers, and Yuri is one of them. It must have not been easy, but she created beautiful sake that I will introduce to you later. In fact, 1300 years ago, or even from the earlier times, women were critical players in sake making. Today, Toji or chief brewers are mainly men, but this term is said to have come from Toji or Toji, referring to women during the Nara and early Heian periods. Women called Toji or Toji that time operated household enterprises or managed land and labor in their own. That also suggests that they were important players in sake making in pre-modern times. After Yuri's younger brother decided to go on a different career, she, as Toji, developed great sake with her mother who had already been brewing before her. It's nice that I was actually able to talk to her. It's getting more and more difficult to see the actual owner of the business, you know.
Yuriさん。
Think about large wineries in the US, right? What Yuri is showing us is her signature sake, Yuri.
これ私の名前で、そのままひらがなでゆりなんですけど、私と母とが中心になって。
This collaborative work with the daughter and mother was served at the Japan-US Leaders Dinner on November 6, 2017.
70代の、はい、もう引退してますけど。
じゃあもう結構前から作られてる
もうそうですね、36年前ぐらいですね。これは地元のお米と酵母にこだわって、すっきり爽やかな辛口を作ろうと思って作ったお酒になります。このゆりで使ってるのは500万石ってお米なんですけど、これはあんまり磨くと、その芯の部分に亀裂が入っちゃいやすいので、これはだからせいぜい 50% ぐらいまでしか磨かなくて、はい。だからそういうその自分たちの作りたいお酒の目指す味に合わせてお米も選ぶし、そういう磨き方も変えていくっていう感じになりますね。
すごいですね。
はい。で、今回新酒バージョンはここでしか買えない限定品になってます。
じゃあこれ買って帰る。
ありがとうございます。
So, which food can go well with this sake?
はい。 白身のチーズとか、はい、オリーブオイル系とかと合わせても、パスタとかも、はい、合いますね。
いいですね。
はい。
いいですね。楽しみ。
ぜひ、お料理と合わせて。
はい。Wow. It has well-balanced sweetness with clear dry finish.
Definitely can go well with white fish, cheese, and pasta with olive oil and white sauces. Yuri also explained how modern sake brewers make sake transparent. That is, after sake rice is fermented, they put it in cloth bags and press them, so clear liquid is separated from sake lees.
大手さんだとアコーディオンカーテンみたいなので横からギューって押しちゃうんですけど、
But they use special pressing techniques to make their high quality sake.
袋を吊るして、ポタポタって落ちる一滴一滴を集めた別名雫酒とかも言ったりするんですけど、っていうか船っていう昔ながらの道具で絞ってるので、こういう細長いそれこそこう船みたいな形したところにその酒袋に入れたお酒のもろみを互い違いに重ねていって上からプレスするんですね。
Yuri and her workers use this special technique to make the award-winning sake, Junmai Daiginjo Aizu Chujo. Next, I visited Suehiro Sake Brewery, also in Aizu-wakamatsu. This was established in 1850. Suehiro is only a 3-minute walk from Tsurunoe, so you can easily hit both breweries one day. At Suehiro, I learned how to make sake and the types of sake, and even tasted it. The tour was well prepared. Our guide, Ms. Tokunaga, taught us the brewing process with key terms and questions that you must know to understand Japanese sake. First, when to start. If you are making sake, you don't want to start brewing at the wrong time of the year. You want to start in late fall to early spring when the temperature is low. Why? 3 reasons. 1. Sake fermentation requires a very low temperature. 2. Cold weather prevents unwanted bacteria from growing. 3. And yes, you can use newly harvested fresh rice to make sake taste better. In cold places like Aizu, brewers start sometime between October and March. Second, should the rice be cooked? Yes. To make sake, the rice should be cooked after being polished and washed. I get back to the polishing business later, but okay. Do you mean cooking rice? Yeah, I know how to cook rice. Sake brewers do not boil rice in water. They steam rice. After making steamed rice, brewers make a super important stuff, a yeast starter or shubo in Japanese, which literally means the mother of sake. In pre-modern times, shubo was called moto, written in this Chinese character that combines one part that stands for origin or foundation, and the other that stands for sake. To generate shubo, brewers first make koji, a fungus, which could be translated as mold. You might think, what? I don't want to drink mold. But this is a type good for humans. And koji plays a crucial role in sake making because it turns carbohydrate into sugar, which yeast loves to eat and produce alcohol. To make koji, we sprinkle seed malt on some of the steamed rice that we made. When koji is made, we fill a tank with steamed rice, koji, and water to grow high-quality shubo or yeast starter. Now you can see shubo is growing. When making shubo, lactic acid is a crucial ingredient. It's like a bodyguard for sake brewing, preventing unwanted bacteria from growing. Many modern sake are made by adding man-made lactic acid, and this method is called sokujo. This method, which was developed in the early 20th century, made sake making super efficient. It reduced three things: the risk of sake getting spoiled, the difficulty of labor and management, the time required to produce shibo. Well then, before the 20th century, what did sake brewers do to get lactic acid? They used more traditional method called kimotozukuri, which makes shibo by using lactic acid bacteria naturally floating in the air of the brewing building. The difference in taste? I often find Kimoto-style sake taste full-bodied, complex, and powerful, like, ooh, this just woke me up. In Delicious Japanese Kaiseki Dinner, I've talked more about it and also introduced another style, similar and delicious, called Yamahai. The next step is fermentation.
shiboの入った大きなタンクの中にですね、水と蒸し米と麹、これを入れていくわけでございます。
Here, shibo is the nest of a large amount of kobo, yeast for sake making. Someone told me a good metaphor. If kobo is a baby, shibo is the womb of the mother. So what would happen inside the tank? Koji converts rice starch into glucose, a type of sugar. Then kobo turns glucose into alcohol and carbon dioxide. When sake is made, these two large fermentations happen at the same time. This is called parallel multiple fermentation. And this process is called shikomi in Japanese. Shikomi takes about a month.
で、仕込みを終えたものをもろみと呼んでおりまして、まだこのもろみの段階はこうお粥のようなドロドロした状態でございまして、このもろみを絞って初めて清酒と呼ぶわけでございます。
She also showed us a bag they used to press moromi. The bag is slightly thick, which can hold about 7 liters, made of cloth.
ここにできたもろみを入れていきまして、
Moromi is put into bags, and then they are piled up, spread on the machine, and pressed from the top.
はい、
これぐらいの目なんですか。
このぐらいですね。
あ、これぐらいなんですか。
そうなんです。
結構細かい。
そうですね。結構こうギュッとこう
あ、本当だ。結構分厚い。
分厚い。
I thought it was a great skill to press the moromi without letting it overflow from this bag. She also showed us the complex machine that the Suehiro Brewery used a long time ago. Remember, Yuri said that her brewery Kikunoe still uses a traditional machine called a boat. Now I understand why it's called a boat. There is a special sake rice developed in Fukushima Prefecture called Yume no Kaori or Flavor of Dreams.
この夢の香りっていうのは食べたりもしますか？コシヒカリは食べるけど。
これを食べますけど、食べても美味しくないんですね。
美味しくないお米
そうなんです。
ね。
はい。酒造公的米になりますと、ちょっとお米の粒大きいの分かりますかね。ちょっと大きいんですね。
Sake rice is larger than the ordinary rice we eat. The reason is that sake rice has the white part, which ordinary rice doesn't have. What is it? It's the starch, the very important ingredient in making sake. It's called shinpaku in Japanese, which literally means the core or heart is white. Shinpaku of rice is the key area that develops into koji. The parts that are surrounding shinpaku, which contain protein, fat, and lipids, are not wanted because they create zatsumi or unfavorable flavor of sake. That's why polishing rice matters. Different names are given to sake depending on how much the rice is polished. On a restaurant menu, if you see ginjo, the sake uses a rice polishing standard of 40% removal and 60% remaining. What? Okay, let's go over again. Suppose this is a rice to make ginjo sake, right? At least this 40% should be removed. So after polishing, the percentage of rice remaining which was used to make ginjo sake, was about 60%. That makes sense. This rice polishing ratio is called 精米部合。
この玄米をこの小ささまで精米して磨いてお酒を作るわけなんですね。やはり割れてしまってもやはり美味しいお酒というのはできないので、心拍を残しながら丸く削らないといけないので、精米するのにもだいたい100キロあたり70時間から100時間時間がかかる作業だと言われております。でやはりお酒の原価の7割が米代と言われておりますので、やはり大吟醸のお酒のお値段がお高いというのは、それだけお米をたくさん使っているからということになるわけでございます。
What did she say? 大吟醸? Yes, for this even more premier sake 大吟醸 or greater 吟醸, the rice should be polished to at least 50%. So after polishing, the percentage of rice remaining should be 50% or less. In addition, there are junmai types. Junmai means that the sake was made only by rice and koji without adding any other alcohol. So junmai sake has the umami and rich taste of rice. This is a chart summarizing different sake types, ingredients, and rice polishing ratio. Junmai Daiginjo and Junmai Ginjo are premium sake types and are usually more expensive. Generally speaking, Junmai Daiginjo sake has a stronger ginjo aroma, which is a sweet and floral fragrance, such as fruit like apple or banana. Junmai Ginjo sake is said to have an attractive contrast of floral fragrance and rich rice flavor. But again, each sake maker produces its own versions, and your own palate might find it something different. So please find opportunities to compare them and build your own experiences.
こちらが季節限定の絞りたての純米吟醸。
季節限定。デリシー。Yeah, quite sweet.
山田のしみというよ
35% 残ってるんですか？
35% 残して 65%。
あ、じゃあすごい削ってるんですね。
はい、
結構。
出ます 65%。はい。これが大吟醸ですね。
大吟醸。
はい。
こちらキムチ多めにお願いします。
あ、よかったですね。すごい美味しい。
How is the taste?
で、こちらが先ほどの福島県産の夢の香りというのが
お米が夢の香りって言って、これのお酒も夢の香り。50% ポリッシュ。
こちらのワイングラスの中で飲んでいただいても、
Again, sweet.
楽しんでいただく。
I think I liked the previous one.
The next sake is
純米酒ですね。
Junmai sake, kaegura. The interesting thing is that the sake rice is polished to 50%, but this sake is not called daiginjo. How to name the sake is really up to the sake maker.
ちょっと甘口ですね。はい。ただこ
It's
の
clear.
See how it's transparent without a golden hue.
限定この売店でしか
I usually like dry ones, so I'll see.
50% 使ったら飲んでください。
It's sweet, but this is kind of smooth.
Yeah, this is really nice. すごい美味しい。
癖がなくて、嬉しい。
いや、美味しい。
なんかこうネチネチしてない甘い。
いやそうです。
ね、どれもネチネチしてるって言い方が悪い。
で、人それぞれ。
So this one we can only buy here. This is made here then, I guess.
これってやっぱり冷やして飲むの方が美味しい。
いえ、これは何でもぬる缶でも管理していただいてもよろしいですし、
ホットに
はい、まあ、冷たく冷やしても常温でも、お好みで、はい、飲んでいただければと思います。
Visiting sake breweries is such a fun experience. You can gather valuable information and even talk to a sake maker and the owner. I learned a lot. Thanks for watching and see you in future episodes.